should be fiscal consolidation. Unfortunately, for another year, we need to continue with fiscal consolidation until our fiscal deficit is brought in line, or our resource envelope is increased, where we can actually start paying for subsidies and start paying for all the other the PSDB increases that we want. That would be a basis for growth. But right now, we don't have the fiscal space for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shakib Shirani. Before I would invite our next speaker, Mr. Haider Ali Patel, I would like to formally welcome Mr. Asrar Rauf, Member, Direct Tax Policy, Federal Board of Revenue. Our next speaker is Mr. Haider Patel. Mr. Haider Patel is a partner in Ernst & Young Ford Road, Siddharth Haider. He is a fellow member of the Institute. He has over 10 years of experience in serving his clients in the taxation related matters, particularly direct taxation. He has also served as a Vice President of IT Bar Association Karachi and currently member of the Managing Committee of IT Bar Association. He is also serving as a member of Taxation Committee of the Institute and IT Bar. He is a regular speaker on finance bill and taxation related matters at different forums including ICAP and IT Bar. He will discuss the budget proposals in respect of direct tax. Please welcome Mr. Haider Ali Patel.
Members of the Council, President of the Institute, Chairman, SRC, members of the Southern Region Committee, my fellow members, Assalamu alaikum. It's again time of the year. We are back here before you all, and based on the discussions and thrashing that we have had in our taxation committee meeting, we are here with some proposals. We already had a macro level discussion by Mr. Shirani, and the message that he is giving is that there is hardly any fiscal space for the government to give further incentives. So people are gathering here to hear more and more comments from us, seeking more and more incentives. But just now, Mr. Asrar Rauf, as I was getting upset that what's the revenue measure that you are putting in, I said no, that's on the other side. VAT is going to give you the revenue. We are going to ask for incentives. So let us start with. I'll take you through. These are micro issues, and some of them you can call macro issues. I'll start with. We have broadened we have outlined the proposals into 3-4 categories: tax policy, then some suggestions for broadening of tax base, some vital issues which will remove irritants from the law, labor levies, some suggestions on that, and then there are technical and editorial corrections which we will not go through in detail, but we have identified a number of such suggestions, so I've just briefly touched on that. To start with, as the Institute of Chartered Accountants, most of our members are from the corporate sector. So to take up the first and foremost issue, the corporate tax rate issue. It's been now quite a few years that the rates were brought down, and since 2007 we have uniform tax rates for all sectors, the private sector, public sector, they are all at 35%. The question is this the right rate? Is this enough? How do we say is it the right rate or not? So one thing that we analyzed at the committee was that let's look around in our region, what's happening in the region. So what we saw was that around us, the most important competitor, if we are talking about attracting industrial investment in Pakistan, we have to compete with China, and in the enormous facilities that China provides for industrialization, maybe we can't match that. And coupled with that, our own issues that we have, law and order and the war on terrorism, all that together, we think we do have to give some incentive to the corporate sector to come and invest in Pakistan, and also to our local brothers here to move on for corporatization, because that gives us more documentation, and that will allow us to broaden the tax base. So what basically we are suggesting here is just to go back, we also studied rates around us, India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Thailand. They have got varieties of tax rates for different sectors. They've got sectoral rates, and especially for public sector listed companies, they've got a lot of incentives. Then some of the priority sectors, they've got special rates. So unfortunately, we are very much at a standard rate system. I don't think that is possible. So what we are suggesting here is that the rate for public and private companies should be gradually removed. There was a debate among the members that what should be the rate. We drafted a chart of slide down, but then finally we said we'll leave it to the government to decide whether it should be a gradual flow down. We believe it should be gradual because the government can't take big hits at this moment. And most importantly, we are saying we used to have the tax credits for balancing modernization in the past, which was a good incentive. The government has an answer to that yes, we have increased the initial depreciation allowance, but we still feel that a direct tax credit is a big help to the industry, and it really saves your out of pocket, because if you have an initial depreciation, that's basically an allowance that's carried forward and you get the benefit over the years. So that's the difference between a direct credit and an allowance that you get. So we feel that BMR should be reintroduced. And why we are emphasizing on the corporate tax rate is there some of the reasons that we have given in my slide, that presumptive taxation is also there on corporate sector. It's not completely wiped out. It's only been withdrawn totally. I would not say totally, just for partly for public sector companies, public listed companies. The rest are still suffering that. So in many a times the presumptive taxation also adds to your effective tax rate. This is one of the reasons why we are seeking a reduction in corporate tax rate. Then the entire corporate sector is bound to carry out withholding exercise. So in a country like us, the suppliers basically they have got straight. I don't need to explain you all are from the corporate sector, so you know that this withholding tax actually adds to your cost. It really adds to your cost of doing business. So this is why these are the reasons that why we are emphasizing that corporate tax rates should be lowered down to attract foreign investment, to allow local businesses to come out, because we are comparing this with local tax rates on AOPs and individual businesses which are as low as 25%. So I leave that to here and leave it to the FBR and the legislature to decide what should be the right rate. But naturally our advice is that it should be a gradual come down. We are aware that the stock exchange has also demanded this, and they've demanded that there should be a gap between a private company and a listed company to incentivize companies to get listed, and they have demanded a straight reduction of 5% for listed companies. So that should also be considered as one of the proposals here. We will also touch on non-corporate tax rates. Here we are not saying that you reduce the tax rate, but what we are saying that there is a need for rationalization of the slabs that are applicable to non-corporate tax rates. If you compare an individual to an individual, you have in a salaried class, a person is paying 20% tax when his salary crosses more than 8.5 million. Compared to that, when you talk about a non-corporate, an individual who is in business, you ask him to pay 25% tax on 1.3 million income. Now the law itself is projecting that the business person who is an individual is not paying the right tax, because you are saying that I have kept the rate high for him not to declare the right income. Salary पे आगे बात करते हैं, हमने उनको भी नहीं बोला है, उससे भी बात करेंगे. So what we are saying is कि इसको भी देख लें आप, and इसको भी आप देख लें. It needs rationalization. हमने suggest ये किया है कि आप 25% rate should now, and with this inflation and everything, it should be at a minimum scale of 5 million income. तो स्लैब्स को रैशनलाइज कर लें. 25% रेट आपने हायर रखना है, बिल्कुल रखें, बट जस्ट रैशनलाइज दीज रेट्स. और जो मिनिमम थ्रेशोल्ड है, दिस वी आर सजेस्टिंग फॉर बोथ इंडिविजुअल्स इन बिजनेस एज वेल एज इंडिविजुअल्स इन ऑन सैलरी. वी आर सजेस्टिंग दैट बिकॉज ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन नील थ्रेशोल्ड शुड बी रेज टू 300,000. आई थिंक फॉर सैलरीड पर्सनस तो उसमें इतना इशू नहीं है, बिकॉज जो इनिशियल रेट है वो बहुत लो है, तो देयर वोंट बी अ मच लॉस ऑफ रेवेन्यू टू द गवर्नमेंट. How can we forget the salaried persons? We have talked about that because every year ICAP doesn't talk about salaried persons, and everybody here sitting here is,